and we're circling back to Alfa again. But I know you're going to enjoy telling this story. So let's hear about your Alfa.
Oh, my Alfa. I moved back from Colorado in 2012 to Ohio, and I decided that I wanted a project car, something to keep me busy. I spent months looking at old rotted out Mustangs and, pretty much anything. I'm a Chevy guy, but there were some nice, what looked like nice Mustangs, and I like the Mach 1 style, but they all, the front end's rusted out, or this is rusted out, or whatever. So finally I found this Alfa. They call it that. It was 1985 GTV6 Alfa Romeo. People called it back then the poor man Ferrari because the valves kind of chattered just a little bit. That's how it's supposed to sound. 5-speed, beautiful body on it. It actually was a transaxle, had a 51-49 split. Beautiful car. Run a bunch of rally races back in the day.
Pedigree.
Oh, yeah. They also made, 500 of them were dual turbo, and I would still die to have one. They were 0 to 60 in 5.2, which, back in 85 was, just
freaking screaming, dude.
Yeah. So I found this guy. He had a lift, and I was like, yeah, let's look at it. It had a bunch of parts. So with the transaxle, there was a donut in the middle. So, the flex and everything. And I looked it all over. He let me drive it. Needed a little here or there. Drove fine. So I took it home, started going through the restoration process as much as you can as a, 20-year-old.
Right.
With no garage or shop to work in. Just parked in the barn. And replaced the donut because it was cracked. He already had one. Replaced the exhaust. Head gaskets. A few other little simpler projects just to get it started. So I finally had it where I wanted. Flush radiator, I just bought a new car, even a new car. I'm going to take care of all
every single car I do that.
All the fluids, filters, anything that can be replaced. I went ahead and got it done. I've had it about 3 months now. I put a new battery in it, and I grabbed my mom. I'm like, let's go for a ride. I lived on a dirt road at the time, and being a rally car, I like to go fast around the turns and drift around the turns. So we go out. And we're going through, and we hit a turn a little hard, and my mom's like, I think my foot's going to go through the floor. I'm like, what? Because Alphas, especially those style, the Romeo,
right,
very bad about running out that front quarter panel or the wheel well there or the floor pan. That was the first thing I looked at. He had it on the lift, beautifully undercoated, told me he restored it all. So
please tell me your mom fell through the floor. That'd be...
So her heel goes through the floor, and I can now see the dirt road. So my mom is freaking out. So we go back, and she's like, I'm never riding that death trap again. I'm like, okay. So I pull out the entire interior. I take out the 2 front seats, all the speakers. I finally get the carpet off the ground. Ugh. Well, the guy I bought it from, who said he had replaced the pans, fiberglassed underneath just enough to make it sturdy so when you knocked on it, it didn't give any, and then undercoated it. He did a great job undercoating. I have to give it to him.
Right.
But when you took the carpet off, all you saw for 3/4 of the floor pan on both sides was fiberglass.
Oh, geez.
And he had reinforced my side, so there was no give to it. But I'd never been in the passenger side before, so I didn't know. So I'm going through it. I'm like, I only paid like $1,200 for the car, but I really liked it. I wanted to keep it. There were pictures of it rally racing that I still have at my house, and I was like, it's just a cool piece of history.
Right.
So I go online. I'm searching. Of course, at this point, back then, Alfa was not in the States anymore.
Right.
And the car, had I been able to fix it, about like $3,000 car. But it's just something to tinker around. It's fun. You see a lot of Spiders. You don't see a lot of GTV6s on the road.
The first thing you think of Alfa, especially old Alfa, at least to me, being from the U.S., is the Spiders.
Yeah. And you can find them anywhere. You see them all the time. But a GTV6 are those.
No, you don't see that.
You don't see them. So,
right. I think I've seen one out in the wild, just running around.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen one outside of a car show.
So I wanted 4 pans. I'm a horrible welder, but I have plenty of friends who could weld.
Right.
And I was like, I'll get 4 pans. Couldn't find any in the States. I found some in Britain. They wanted like, I think it was like 300 quid a piece. I was like, okay, I can handle that. It's fine. I really like this car. I want to keep it.
Was it
And
like
then
a gray?
came the shipping.
And
Right, I was
then
gonna say.
came the shipping. It was going to be 700. So almost the same cost, 700 American dollars to get it shipped here.
Woof.
And it was heartbreaking because the front 4-pan is, I mean, it was 3.5 feet long, 2 feet wide. Just a horrible thing to ship. So that was heartbreaking. So I was like, all right, I'm going to sell it. I left the seat out on the passenger side. I posted on Craigslist for like $2,000. And finally I had this guy. He's like, hey man, I'll give you $1,500 for it. I'm like, well, just the parts I have alone, this and this. I said, pretty firm on 2,000. So he showed up to my house and he's like, I got your $1,500 cash. I said, you do $1,750, you can take it. And
Right.
I'm like, but first you got to tell me what you're going to do with it.
I need to know if it's
Yeah.
going to go to a good home or not.
I'm like, are you going to restore it? He said, yeah. He's like, he had a bunch of photos on his phone, and he even had a little binder full of cars he had restored. So I sell it to him, and we sign the title and everything like that. I call him. He's like, give me a call anytime, and I'll let you know the progress of it. Well, I call him like a week later. Phone number's disconnected. I end up looking all over the internet. I find it. He parted it out.
Really?
The whole thing. He was he was just a wheeler dealer.
Wow.
And he just, that car doesn't even exist
some cars
anymore.
deserve that fate.
This
some
one
cars
did
didn't.
though.
Right.
I didn't think. I mean, the factory AC worked,
That's impressive.
heat worked, radio worked.
I'm
Literally,
surprised you didn't fab it's not like I have any welding or fabrication experience, but it seems like, at that point I would have like sheet metaled something together.
right. And but that was
Of
my
course, that would kind of ruin the restoration of it, or at least the purity of the restoration.
right, because when I get a car, I like to keep it as factory as possible. And
Right.
I'm a horrible welder. I can get metal to stick, but I can't weld. And I still breaks my heart about that car. And that
Yeah.
was my first project. And I still miss it. It was a great car. It was an awful car, but it was a great car at the same time.
Yeah.
My next project is going to be, my grandfather has a 1983 El Camino.